Your gospel is all about making sure that wherever you come from, you'll be able to hear the gospel. This is the gospel in Urdu.
यूहन्ना की इंजील उसका 3 बाब और उसकी 16 आयत से, क्योंकि खुदावंद ने दुनिया से ऐसी मोहब्बत रखी कि उसने अपना इकलौता बेटा बख्श दिया, ताकि जो कोई उस पर ईमान लाए हलाक ना हो बल्कि हमेशा की ज़िंदगी पाए। आमीन।
Your gospel aims to make the gospel available in languages from around the world. It's taken from John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. Look out for more from your gospel at the top of the hour every hour on Gospel for Grampian. Listen.g4g.org.uk. If you'd like to catch up with our podcasts, then it's podcast.g4g.org.uk. Thank you for listening.
Hi, this is to all the listeners of Gospel for Grampian. Wherever you are, this is Matt Campbell from the Scottish borders saying have a blessed day. God bless each and every one of you. Take care.
Welcome along to the Community Elements show here on Gospel for Grampian. Now this Friday, first of all, we've come down to the Allotment Market store, and I'm taking the role of the green and orange chef. The Allotment Market store is something that's been set up by allotment holders from around the city, and they're selling off their fresh produce. So in this case, there's lots, I gather, of courgettes. And we come down to Duthie Park to go to the store and find out exactly what they have on offer. Hopefully they still have something on offer. It is a tad on the windy side, so hopefully I'll be able to get something from them before they shut. Welcome along to the Community Elements show, and we've actually come down here now to Duthie Park. Why to Duthie Park? We normally, right at this time, be broadcasting Brian's Good News, and that's coming up just a little bit later. But that's just after I've been into Duthie Park to go to the Allotment Market store. Now, the Allotment Market store, if you've been listening from previous times, is all about using the fresh produce from the allotments from around Aberdeen and selling off at low prices. So that's what I'm actually up to. And as you can see, the park is actually quite busy. We've just come down close to about the end of serving time, so I just managed to catch them, which is excellent. But they got on offer some thyme, some rosemary, cabbage, onions, rhubarb, courgettes by the dozen, and they've also got some red currants as well. So I think we'll see what we can get of these. So if we can have, whoops.
Right, it is some peas.
Peas, yes.
Is that enough for you?
Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you.
Okay, that's 39p.
Okay.
Referred to as marrows.
Definitely. Wow. I see you even got a squash here, but I think I'll take 2 of your larger courgettes, and that would more than do for what we need. And I'll also take a little bit of rhubarb as well, please.
Okay.
We've now come back again to the kitchen, the Gospel Hall, and so the green and orange chef is here, and we're going to start cooking. Now, the haul that I managed to get from Duthie Park was £5.20, and this is 2, I have to say, very, very, very large well, courgette. In fact, they're more like marrows. And this one I've got in my hand here looks more like a baton for. We're going to cut that up, and we're going to be making that one into this courgette savoury. So to do that, I've actually brought in here, we've got some eggs, and these eggs have come from Shetland, and the eggs we're going to be using for binding things together and creating a lovely rich sauce that will go with everything. So it'd be kind of a bit like bacon and eggs. Now, the reason I mention Shetland eggs is we haven't deliberately shipped these in. These have been given to us by a friend who lives on Shetland, who happened to send these over by another friend. But anyway, that's by the way. So these are proper hen's eggs, and just to double check, we're going to go and fill a bowl up with water. And there's a special test that you can actually do, and if the eggs sink, then they're okay, but if the eggs float, then they're not okay. Because it kind of means that they've been sitting around for too long. So I'm going to try these two eggs. The larger of the two eggs is from one of the hens, and the other four from the other hen. So anyway, both these I think we can safely say are under the water, therefore they're both fine to use, which is great, just what we want. We don't want to have wasted eggs. So one of the next things that we're going to do is to actually put the oven on. So put the oven on around about 170 degrees Fahrenheit, centigrade, and once it's heated up, we'll be able to cook the whole dish for about 40 minutes. Now 40 minutes I'm saying as a minimum, and we'll be checking it after 40 minutes. What we're going to do in just a moment, we're going to be chopping up a red onion and also a larger white onion. Both these have actually come from the Allotment market stall. We've got some bacon larders from the local supermarket. We also got some thyme from the Allotment market store, which they gave free. We've got some peas, and the bacon larder is going to go well. Don't worry if you don't have any. Oh, now, on cutting up this red onion, unfortunately some onions are perhaps not quite so good. The red onion maybe just slightly over a little bit, but there are usable parts in that onion, so try to use whatever parts are available. And having done that, you can actually pop all this lot away. You can make use of the food waste bins that are outside in most of the city areas, and if you are in the countryside, you will probably end up with a food caddy that has been given to you, so use that. And if you've got a compost heap, then you can pop the whole lot out there. No need for everything to stay in the house and make it smell. And I know I would be in trouble here if the Victoria Gospel Hall ended up smelling of onion. Right, so what we've done so far in the kitchen, we've cut up the onions, we've shelled the peas, and we've actually made the topping for the bread. Now the topping I've made just simply by scrunching up in my hand some crisp breads that have been sitting around a little bit long. That doesn't mean to say they can't be used. Into that we've added some cheese and just mix it up lightly. Now you may want to use this and make it into proper breadcrumbs with a food processor, and you can do that and everything will be all nice and homogenized. Fine. You can also use bits of bread and breadcrumbs, certainly. But this is nice and crisp already, and the cheese will help to bind things together. What I'm now going to do is to break open the eggs that I've tested earlier. There we are. Try not to get the shell in with the egg like I have, but anyway, that's by the way. It is good, wholesome, free-range eggs. We have tested it, and the eggs sink rather than float, so we know that we're all good there. They come from free-range in Shetland, and so we're looking forward to trying it. Now, do the 2 eggs, and then add in a little bit of milk, and we're going to whisk that up with some salt and pepper and a few herbs. And this will help to impart a really wonderful, and some people might even say unctuous sauce inside, and will go really, really well with the bacon lardons. Now what you can do, as I say, is to fry up the bacon lardons and the onions, and while those are frying, and I will have made up this the egg and the milk mixture fairly simply, I have to say. You can do that with a fork even, and so I've got a fork here, just a little bit of milk, you don't need too much. Now as the vegetables cook, they will also release moisture, and that'll be really good. So what we have is an oval dish here, and we're going to be cutting one of these large courgette marrow type things up, the one that looks like a button, up nicely. This doesn't have to be done for too long, and some chefs, I would imagine, will probably say that was too long, but we'll do that, and we'll add a few extra spices into there. We're prepping up everything, including the veg. We'll go over and listen to Brian's good news. Good afternoon, it's Friday and it's time for the Community Elements show, beginning off with Brian's good news. What have we got in our good news today? Something about old friends and the Archie. Oh, Brian's solemnly presenting me the news clippings that he has got, and we're starting off with a popular radio presenter.
Yes, indeed. A popular radio presenter is among the first to sign up for a charity dance event. Claire Stevenson, co-presenter of Claire and David's Big Breakfast on Original 106 FM, will be among those lacing up their dancing shoes for Strictly Archie on October 11th. She has teamed up with Aberdeen Considine's Director of Estate Agency, Alan Cumming, for the event, which will raise funds for the Archie Foundation. Claire said, "About 16 years ago we worked together at what's now Nuffield Gym. We still get on great. We're going through songs and dance routines based on watching Strictly Come Dancing videos. We have had a lot of support. I'll certainly be putting it out there to the listener, and if there's any dance teachers or makeup artists out there, we'd love to hear from them. We're going to be giving it our all because it is a great thing for the North East. The whole area should get involved. Everyone in the North East knows what good work goes on at the Children's Hospital, and it's good to do something to help." Alan said he had previously promised to sign up if a dance event was ever launched in the city. He said, "Neither of us are great dancers. We are totally pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. I got into this because I was at an event involving D.C. Thompson doing something similar in the Central Belt. I said I'd do it if it came to Aberdeen. A year and a half later I got a phone call, so there was no backing out. The pair are eager to do their bit for charity, but are also determined to make sure their training is not in vain." Alan said, "It's very exciting," and Claire agreed. She says, "We are really excited, and hopefully in October the trophy will be ours." The Archie Foundation's regional fundraising manager, Jamie Smith, said, "It's great that two such well-known North East people have agreed to take part and support the foundation. Now it's just about making sure people support the dancers by buying tickets or compete against them by signing up. The event will be held at the Beach Ballroom on October 11th. Do you have what it takes to impress the judges while doing your bit for sick children in the Northeast? The Archie Foundation is looking for up to 15 adult couples and 5 junior couples to take part in Strictly Archie. Regional Fundraising Manager Jamie Smith said you can get involved by emailing hello@archie.org, by phoning, or by getting in touch on Facebook. Tickets to watch the event are available at £20 per person. A table of 10 can be purchased for £200. The event will be held from 7 p.m. until late on October 11th at the Beach Ballroom. A former Crufts judge will rate the abilities of canines at a new dog show in the Northeast. The first Cruden Bay Companion Dog Show has been organised for September 7th in place of the annual Summer Gala. Funds raised from the event will go towards the local community association, and the group has promised a fun day for families and their four-legged friends. Event organiser Chriselle Van Driel said Kennel Club regulations will be in place for the competition dog show and judging will start at 11 a.m. We will also have an agility and flyball display, and there will be a barbecue, kids rides and a bouncy castle. Dogs registered to take part in the event will be judged on their appearance as well as their temperament. Pedigree dogs will take part in the first show, and all other pets registered will be featured in the novelty section. Giselle added the pedigree judge is Patricia Dempster, who has been judging at all levels for more than 30 years. She has judged the championship levels in every country in the UK. Her biggest honour was judging at Crufts in 2012. She's been quite a successful breeder and exhibitor over the years, but only does a few shows now. The novelty judge is Hilary Greensell. This will be one of her first events, but she has been a dog owner for more than 30 years. 2 local dog clubs will start at the event, the Divana Dogs Agility Club from Kemney and the Scratch Squad Flyball Club from Inverurie. The groups will set up an agility course for owners to put their dogs through their paces. The event will take place from 10 a.m. on Saturday, September 7th at Mill Park in Cruden Bay. Staff from an Aberdeen car repair service have set off on the first leg of a 458-mile cycle to raise vital funds for charity. Employees from the Quick Fit in Dice began their journey yesterday as part of a relay team, which will see 80 staff members from different branches cycle the length of the country. Their journey will include more than 120 centres and end in Manchester on September 18th. The Tour de Branch will raise money for children with Cancer UK, which helps youngsters and their families. Helping to give the cyclists a celebratory send-off yesterday was Holby City actress Chizzy Akadulu, Aberdeen Lord Provost Barney Crockett and the Caledonian Cowboy Collective Pipe Band. David Dundas, Centre Manager at Quickfit Dice, said, "We are thrilled to have the opportunity to support our very own cyclists as they raise money for such a worthwhile cause. We'd like to thank all local supporters who came and joined us in cheering them on. All money raised by the Tour de Branch will go towards our £1 million target, helping children with Cancer UK continue their brilliant and indispensable work. To donate, go to bit.ly/2KHVOUH. We have scripture text this week taken from Psalm 32 verse 8. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. Amen.
Amen. Brian, thank you very much for the good news stories this week. And I think definitely need to be mentioning the Archie and the great work that has been done. I mean, it is almost time for Strictly Come Dancing coming up. I know a few of the people who have been selected to be part of that, and now to actually use the vehicle, as it were, of Strictly Come Archery to raise some much needed cash for the Archery Foundation is really good. So excellent.
I think it's brilliant, isn't it? Because they need the money, and this at the Beach Ballroom on October 11th, many people will be able to donate money there and receive, in exchange, a lovely meal.
So it will be a very good evening as well, and hopefully they'll be able to get their 15 couples. I wonder, did they say it was going to be judge that one? Or do you think they may get some of the Strictly judges in?
Oh, no, that would be interesting.
Yes, it would be interesting. But I suspect the Strictly judges will be needed in London.
It's a good point. By the way, I'm not volunteering.
No, well, I'm not going to volunteer either, because I'm not very good at keeping time. So I expect the most critical judge would have something very vulgar to say about my dancing or lack of it.
The less said, the better.
Yes. But that's no reason not to actually help and to contribute. So definitely contribute to the Archery Foundation, indeed. The other thing, I think it's really good that City Car Firm staff getting on their bikes to assist.
That's for Cancer UK.
The Cancer UK.
That is a brilliant charity, because they do so much for especially young people with cancer, and it helps towards their recovery and
research and everything else.
Yes, indeed, very, very important indeed.
You can't underestimate that. And then you've got a dog show as well, so it's all good. Have you ever been to a dog show?
Never. Would be a good idea.
I haven't been to a dog show per se, but I think I've seen dogs. When we've been to things like, for example, the Tower of Show, I'm pretty sure they'd have had a dog event there.
True enough.
And I'm pretty sure I've seen something in the past, but not on that occasion. But we're actually thinking that we will be having another trip out to the Tower of Show another year. And we'll have to.
We'll be delighted to go there because it was very, very good this year.
It was indeed, yes. So congratulations to those who have done that. Excellent.
Great.
Anyway, so could we get you to do your scripture, please?
Willingly. Taken from Psalm 32, verse 8, where it says, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. In other words, God himself is in control and giving all the help that we need for whatever we face.
Yes.
I think that's a very, very encouraging scripture.
Indeed. Now then, Mr. Senior Brian, a little bird has told me that you are prepping up something rather special in the future. Because one of the things that we do, listeners, here on this station is to make the gospel available in different languages. And Brian has been doing a bit of research and has managed to find the Doric for John 3 verse 16. Now, I won't put you on the spot quite now, but listeners, if you listen in the future, then you might well get to hear this gentleman reading in Doric John 3 verse 16. Why are we doing it in Doric? Well, some people might regard Doric and smile whenever they hear it. I think that would be almost true to say, wouldn't you, Brian?
Indeed, I would agree there.
But would you also say that, how important would you say that Doric and local dialects and languages are?
Well, Doric is a local language and it is important to local people. So why should Doric not be included in explaining the biblical meaning of John 3:16, speaking it clearly in their own language so that they can have a much better chance of understanding it and obeying it.
And believing it.
This is indeed crucial. Yes.
And so we have John 3:16 in Doric, and I believe that there are quite a few Doric speakers in the northeast of Scotland here, not least in the Broch. But it's important to do that, and wherever you are in the world, doubtless you will have different languages for your part of the world and different dialects, and to be able to make sure that the gospel of John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but shall have everlasting life, is accessible to all. And one of the things, I've got some bacon larders, and these have been helpfully divided up into 2 portions. So if you're cooking for one, the way that this comes off, you can just open up 1 portion, but if it's going to be 2 portions like it is, we'll just have that. So open up both portions, and we'll put this on one of these induction hobs, so that is going to become quite warm now, so we'll open up that one, and we'll fry those up until they become nice and caramelized. We'll also be adding the onion at the same time, and then we'll start cutting up the courgette. This is Gospel for Grampian, Gospel Community Radio for North Scotland, engaging, equipping, enabling communities to live life to the full with Christ Jesus at the centre. Now, this programme is the Community Elements Show, and the green and orange chef in the kitchen right now and cooking up a Courgette Savoury. And this Courgette Savoury has been made from some fairly simple ingredients. In the saucepan on the induction hob here, we have got some bacon lardons. These are smoked bacon lardons, which come as a pack which contains 2 individual sections, and I've cut up some onion, some red onion and some large onion, and the red onion and large onion have come, as indeed some of the other ingredients we're going to be using, from the Allotment Market Store. The Allotment Market Store grows the excess of what those who have allotments in Aberdeen don't need, and they would like to sell off for a reasonable price, and then that can go into helping to maintain the allotments and back to some of the allotment holders as well, which is really good. And in fact, the excess from that will actually go to Seafine. Seafine is Community Food Initiatives Northeast, and they do a great job in being able to distribute fresh fruit and produce at low prices, or indeed at no price at all, to those who are in need, and also to businesses, to make sure that there's little wastage of food. Now, in just a little while, we're going to have David Keith into the studio, and we'll be chatting to him about recycling and about waste and recycling, and he'll also be letting us know that there's a new charge coming out. So if you've got garden waste and you would like the council to pick that up in the future, there will be a charge for picking that up. So David will be coming in to explain exactly what, when and how. And that's just in a little while. We're continuing on here in the kitchen, and fairly soon we should get the lovely smells of cooking bacon lardons. So that's the sound of the cooking bacon lardons coming through just now. I'm going to go and add the onions to this. The bacon lardons should be nicely cooked. We won't be adding all the onions, we'll just add half the onion, half the big onion, and allow the onions and the bacon lardons to get nicely cooked, at least. And don't be afraid as well to play around with food. don't be afraid to play around with herbs as well. Even putting in something as simple, for example, as once it's been cooked, as simple as some thyme and also a stock cube with a bit of moisture in there. Cover the pot and make sure it's covered. So the idea is that you retain the heat and you also get the flavours of the onion and the bacon lardons mixing up really, really well. So that's what we're doing right now. I'm going to be starting to chop up this humongous courgette, which is more like a marrow. I'm putting in a stock cube, and this will be a great source of flavour to the whole dish. So the oven is on, and it should be heating up nicely. Keep the lid on and turn it down a little bit. It's actually not an induction hob for which you'll need special saucepans. This is a halogen hob. So I was a little bit wrong when I said induction before. It looks a bit like an induction hob, but it's a halogen hob. And we've now got our onion, which we'll put over here just temporarily. Not for too long, but just long enough to give me the opportunity to start cutting this huge, humongous courgette marrow up. Well, someone likes their courgettes, that's for sure. If you actually cut it into half and then cut it into smaller strips, and obviously if it's smaller it will cook all the better for it. Halves, divide up into quarters, and if electricity, particularly of energy or gas, is of an issue and you're on a prepayment meter, then if you cook it too long, then some of the flavour might well cook out, and that is something you would want to avoid. So there will be a picture coming up here of the how things are being cut up into various slices. This is not MasterChef, so you're not under any assessment or anything. The important thing to do is to cook wholesomely, and as and when you develop any mess or rubbish, clear it away as soon as possible. I would certainly not be thanked if I left a mess here at the Gospel Hall in the kitchen. Okay, so we've actually managed to fill this oval dish with just using half of the courgette that we have. So we're now going to put the peas in. Let's spread the peas out. And this will also go into towards your 5 a day of fruit and veg. Considering the onions, it won't really matter quite how you do the onions. In fact, it might be better to put the onions on at least in half. Here we go, like that. And again, it's not MasterChef. We're making wholesome food here, and the intention is to make it good and hopefully for the whole family. Don't forget that some people may have allergies to onions. I know that one person does, but generally speaking, onions are good and wholesome and can be used in most cases. So got that. We're now going to go and take the flour. So I'm just going to take a picture of this one, because we're starting to assemble our dish now, and it won't be long before we put it in the oven. So the bacon lardons are now coming out. They're very hot, very warm, but what's coming out is quite unctuous. We'll let this one just rest for a little bit. We'll turn this one off. Make sure that you don't have any rings on that you don't need. It's all too easy to do that. I've sometimes come into the kitchen after quickly going out, and especially if it's a gas ring, you need to make sure that you switch the gas ring off immediately after finishing using it, and then you're not wasting any energy, and helps out with saving also anyone from injury or worse still. So we're going to let that cool a tad, and then we'll go and add the egg mixture that we've got, but we'll just let that cool for about 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, what we're now going to do is to actually we'll put the egg over, and we're now going to pour the crumble bit over. Try and make sure it's all sort of as well mixed as it's possible to get mixed, but just make sure you spread it out as evenly as possible over the top, so that not too much comes down onto the floor or anything else. And so I'm going to do a little bit of work here to make sure it's all nice and clean for everyone coming in on Sunday, but generally speaking it should be alright, and the idea is to actually have a good family-sized meal ready. In this case it'll be something that we can actually come back to again tomorrow, so this is a Courgette Savoury, and we're putting the topping on, and we've got quite a bit of cheese running through here. Inside it's actually quite wet, so the amount of dry crumble on top should be alright. We're keeping it to a reasonable temperature, but it will need checking on to make sure that all is well. Now, something like a small mound. So we're now going to go and put this into the oven with care. So the next time it comes out is in 40 minutes time. Well, that's cooking. Good afternoon. You're tuned in to Gospel for Grampian, and this is the Community Elements show. For our second community element, we've got David Keith from the Waste and Recycling Department of Aberdeen City Council. How are you today?
Very well, thank you, Rob.
Well, thanks very much for coming in. I wonder, could you tell our listeners what your job entails?
Really, public contact and public information. I suppose you could describe us as the smiling face of bins in Aberdeen. There's a lot of information out there for residents. We're there to supply it, to answer queries, resolve issues in some instances. If you get in touch with us I'm not going to call it a complaint, but if you
have an issue,
we'll do our very, very best to resolve that as far as we can within the restrictions that we have as a department.
Okay, well, in a minute we're going to be talking about a new service, and indeed a charge for a service of garden bins and emptying. But before we do that, because it's waste and recycling, there's so many things that I think people get confused about with what can actually go into a recycling bin. What sort of things would you expect to see in there?
Again, and I would say that there are leaflets available which we can send out to you if you want to contact us, and I have contact details here. I can maybe run over them later on, but a lot of these documents are actually available online on Aberdeen City Council's web pages. So bins and recycling, it's called, on the web page. If you click on there and follow the few links, you should find all our PDF documents. So the leaflet that we would send out to householders, whether it's communal bins for tenements and high rises or wheeled bins for what I call front and back door properties, there are lists there. So when we're looking at plastics, we can't take every plastic. We often get asked, where do I put my flower pots? That's one thing that we can't accept. We don't take used washing up bowls and things like that. So it's basically, rule of thumb is, if you buy it in the supermarket as packaging, we can probably take it.
What about the film off the top of...
Right, film, no, obviously. I mean, there are restrictions, Film's problematic. It twists into ropes. It twists into ropes in the back of the vehicles and jams them. It twists into ropes on the conveyor belts in the sorting facilities. Polythene bags we don't want in the mixed recycling because that obscures what's ever inside the polythene bag, the sensors, and the Mark I human eyeball that's employed in the sorting sheds can't see into a plastic bag. But they do twist into these really, really strong ropes. They can jam the machinery. Polythene, most larger supermarkets have a polythene drop-off point. If you have a collection of plastic bags that you want to get rid of and you don't want to see them go into general waste, drop them off at your supermarket.
And what actually happens to these, the waste and recycling after it's been taken in by the council?
There is a video out there that belongs to Aberdeen City Council and you can find it on YouTube, and it's about 6 minutes long, and it shows you the journey of an item put into the mixed recycling bin and just what happens to it. So from the householder into the back of our collection vehicle to be deposited at the sorting facility, and then you see there's actually a mile, 1.6 kilometres of conveyor belt that travel at a speed. It's an automated process along with the Mark I human eyeball in the sorting sheds that they'll remove bits of contamination that we don't want to see in the mixed recycling. But you see all the wonderful gadgets and gizmos working to separate the different fractions of paper and cardboard, plastics, the different styles of bottles, metals, glass. Yeah, if you're interested, it's worth a watch. It's 6 minutes of just lets you see what happens to your recycling, and at the very end of that you'll see what happens to the collected material, that it's baled into 1 metre cubes. It's stored at the facility to go into the reprocessors. So your recycling is being made back into stuff. The reprocessors are retrieving it and they are making plastics back into plastics, paper back into paper, glass goes back into glass. But watch the video, it's good knowledge.
Well, what we'll do is we're going to go and make that link to that video available
Excellent.
through our website, and then people will be able to actually watch that. I'm pretty sure it will be certainly really interesting. Thank you. Up until now, garden waste has been put into the brown bins and has not incurred a charge. So why the change in the service?
Savings had to be made across the council. There were several options considered by the council, and the elected members approved this option. We have to point out that there is no obligation to collect garden waste from residents, and that's any local authority across the UK. Could be seen that the resources used to collect garden waste are taking away those resources that we're using to collect general waste and mixed recycling. So to keep the service going, there has to be a charge involved.
Okay. So what about the number of bins at the property? How many bins can you have?
Capped this at 2 bins per property. This is to ensure that our obligation to collect your food waste is not complicated by dedicating vehicles and manpower to areas of the city that would like more garden bins. In a nutshell, the 2 brown bin policy is to ensure an equality of service across the city to each householder and to all households.
Suppose someone was to say, well, we have a large garden, can we buy extra bins?
The answer is no. As explained above, the service has, like everybody else within Aberdeen City Council, limited resources. There is the option to use the household waste recycling centres, and we advocate home composting. Also, it's possible for residents to choose to have a contractor remove their excess garden waste at their own cost.
Okay, I mean, sometimes it might be such that some people might say, I'm not able to do that, I'm not able to afford that, but I still have this larger space. What then?
Able to afford the £30 for the bin?
Or indeed doing a contract or taking it?
No, we do appreciate that, and I think we'll have to remember the immortal words of Abraham Lincoln in this case, that you cannot please all of the people all of the time. That yes, it's we can't continue to collect garden waste without charging for it. There will be a number of people who will find it difficult, but we've tried to put as many options in place as we can. We do have the household waste recycling centres. You can take your garden waste there free of charge. Yes, there's transport involved, but I think when you weigh up all the costs involved, if you're running back and forward to the household waste recycling centre for the 84 pence a week that the garden permit charge is, are you going to be spending that in petrol anyway? So there are pros and cons for people. For those that don't want to tie into the scheme, then there's the option to compost. And I have in the past been a home composter myself, and a home compost heap has to be nothing more complicated than a pile of garden waste covered in a tarpaulin. It's that simple. And again, there is information available. You can contact us. We'll point you in the right direction of where to get the information and how to start out your own wee compost heap. There are no exemptions from the garden permit charge. You have to buy in to be part of it, and that is the only option that we have just now.
Well, that's understandable. You have to simplify things and make things workable for everyone. So people can pay in a number of different ways, and some people would say that direct debit payment would be easier.
Absolutely, and we like to see things made as easy as possible for the residents. However, there was a limited time available for us to set up this permit system. The system adopted was available at the time and it has a proven history, but we would hope that direct debit will be available in the near future, as it's certainly a popular option for the residents.
Great. Well, I'm sure many people will be relieved to hear about that. There's nothing worse than thinking I've got to go and do this or I've got to go and do that, and then it just takes extra time. But the direct debit is a good way to do it. Now, some people might say, our property has a shared garden. Can we pay individually for the same permit?
I seem to be saying no an awful lot here, but sorry, again, the answer is no. The system set up issues a permit to an individual build address, and we would hope that neighbours would share the cost for a shared bin between them, so whoever's actually buying the permit takes the hat round their neighbours and receives a suitable contribution from the folk in the block.
Okay, well that's a way to do things, I think. One of the last questions is, what if our permit or bin is stolen? Because I think the permit is actually placed on the front of the bin. What happens if it's stolen? Yeah,
we'd like the permit on what I suppose would be the back of the bin, but underneath the handles. And that's because ideally the bin should be presented handles facing out to the road for the crews. So yeah, the permit does go on the bin. It's allocated to an address, and this is printed. It's actually printed twice on the permit. It's also allocated on our collection system, so the crews have access. Many of the vehicles have access to the electronic roll, if you like. This is the same system that's used by the office staff. Stealing a permit or a bin wouldn't do the thief much good, as the crew will be able to see that the bin presented is not allocated to that address. The permits are described as tamper-proof by the suppliers as well. They assure us that it would be nigh on impossible to remove a permit from a bin and reapply it to another. Also, due to the material and design of the permit, it would be really difficult to write over. You would need really specialist equipment, I think, to reprint the label. The crews will be checking the permits on the bins before they empty, so they will see if the bin's at the wrong house or the wrong street. So certainly if you go and steal a bin and take it to the other side of the city, it's certainly going to be noticed.
I think it gives people more assurance about that, because there's nothing worse than having a bin which is stolen and you paid out £30 for that. I mean,
you can get replacement permits if your bin does go missing. Certainly replacement bins and replacement permits. Now, it's an inconvenience, as with any theft, but yeah, you can get a new permit delivered to your address. Bins can be delivered if your bin's stolen.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Where do you see the department going in the future?
Well, luckily I'm very low down the food chain, so please don't take this as a definitive answer. I mean, I think in Aberdeen we do very well. Our recycling rate compared to other cities is high. We want to see what we call the quality of recycling improved. that we'd like to see less contamination in the bins. And it's easy, we've all done it, I've done it myself, that the wrong thing goes into the bin and you haven't noticed it. But we're looking at gross contamination here, which leads to rejected loads and a lot of takeout, if you like, from the stream that's going through the sorting facility. So if we could get the quality of the recycling up, less contamination, that would be a really, really good thing. Other issues that we have, I suppose, just like any city, it's not peculiar to Aberdeen at all. We have a lot of bins on the pavement that we would like to see put back inside the property between collection days. Because our guidelines are put your bin out the evening or the morning of your collection and return it to your property the day after. And we do appreciate it can be difficult for some properties. They physically have nowhere to store a bin, so we can grant exemptions, if you like. Improvements in the system. We've taken a varied amount of mixed recycling, and I think anything that gets added to that is only a bonus, but we have to wait and see just what the industry can accept. And the factor for us in accepting recycling is, A, can we collect enough of it, and B, do we have an outlet for it? Because we could collect absolutely anything. We could start collection of bird feathers, but we have no way of getting rid of them. Nobody wants to buy bird feathers to reprocess them. And again, that's a ridiculous example, but it's just to illustrate that the stuff we collect, as we talked about earlier at the start of the interview, the stuff we collect does go for reprocessing. So the plastics are made back into plastics, and the paper's made back into paper, and the glass bottles are made back into glass bottles and jars. The metals go back, they're smelted again and turned back into metal products of varying descriptions. So progress. Watch this space, I think, is what I'm trying to say. There's lots and lots of stuff out there that we could cut down on. That's another aspect. Do we need quite so much packaging? Because packaging can be quite problematic. Plastic film that you mentioned earlier. So we're seeing alternatives coming onto the market as well. It's a market in flux, the waste industry, that new things come into the marketplace, come into the homes, and we have to see if we can manage them and use them sustainably, get them back in there to the remanufacture, if you like.
Okay, and what about contact details?
Yes.
You're on Facebook, I believe.
We do. We have a Facebook page. I'm very old school. I tend not to use Facebook. I like pen and ink and stamps myself, but the council phone number is the council phone number, and I won't read it out over the air just in case I make a mistake, but it's printed on, I think most of the council leaflets that you get will certainly have the contact number for the customer contact centre. The staff there will direct any inquiries to the appropriate department, so please, if you want to get hold of us, phone the customer contact centre, use the customer contact centre. We do have an email address, wasteandrecycling@aberdeencity.gov.uk. Look at our website as well, which is aberdeencity.gov.uk / bins and recycling. And we are on facebook.com/recycle for Aberdeen. Have a look. We put lots of information up on Facebook. There's often things that are happening right now, so events that we're attending and what we're hoping to promote at those events will go up on our Facebook page. And if we've got any announcements and things, we'll put them up on there as well. So worth a look if you're a Facebook user.
For the moment, David Keith, can I thank you very much for coming in, and perhaps you might be allowed to come in again at some point.
Rob, it's been a pleasure, and if you invite me back, I would be more than happy to.
And our great thanks to David Keith for coming in from Aberdeen City Council. Now, he mentioned that there was a contact centre number, that's 03000 200 292. That's 03000 200 292. And indeed, the other ways of getting in contact are all available from our website and from the post about the Community Elements Show. Now, I do apologise for the rough and ready way that some of the editing has been done today. However, we've been trying to inform you of some of the ways, as well as recycling, in which you can take your part in, for example, avoid wasting food, because a huge amount of food does get wasted every single year in Scotland, unfortunately. And this is really the purpose of the Green and Orange Chef. So I've been trying to work out ways in which we can actually use food before it totally goes off and avoid some of the pitfalls of chucking large amounts of food out when there's really no need to. So today, I've been in the kitchen as the green and orange chef, making up a courgette savoury, and we've sourced courgettes from the Allotment market stall down in Duthie Park. And we've made a courgette savoury up from some simple ingredients, including those marrow courgettes, albeit, but we've also reused or used up some old cheese, some very crumbly cheese, and also some crisp breads as well that were sitting around, not doing very much, but again, it's probably in the corner of your cupboard, and they're still crisp, and they could still be used as a crumble topping. We got some bacon lardons. We fried up with some onions that we also got. We put in a stock cube and put some thyme in as well. And in fact, we had about 4 or 5 kilos worth of fruit and veg from the Allotment market store for £5.20. So some of that, in fact, quite a lot of that, I'm actually going to be taking home. Right, and also letting Helen try this dish that we created. But you can create that dish for really not too much. There's a preparation time about 20-25 minutes, and then about 50 minutes to an hour worth in the oven. And of course, if you're cooking for a larger amount of people, then you can probably use a deeper dish than we did even. We use a shallow dish, but this is something that we could probably do over maybe 1 or 2 meals. There's quite a bit there, and with everything, as you can hear, it's live radio, and there's a siren just going outside in the area of Torry. This is Gospel for Grampian. It's coming up to 3 minutes to the top of the hour. And at the top of the hour, you'll be finding the following. Yes, it'll be hearing is believing with your gospel at the top of the hour. We'd love it if we get some more people speaking in different languages, the John 3:16, and hopefully Brian will be able to get John 3:16 sorted out in Doric before too long. And we're also hoping for Gaelic as well, John 3:16, and we're hopefully going away to Lewis soon and be able to get John 3:16 also in Gaelic. And that'll be another Your Gospel. We've got a couple more folks who have kindly said that they would source and read some more languages for us. Again, all brilliant, because it makes sure that we get the gospel to every corner of the world, as and when we can. But we're working on it. Coming up at 7 o'clock, you'll be able to hear the Power Hour and Power Hour from last week once again. And next week, the Community Element Show. And this show will be available once again. And you can listen to that 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. next Friday. Coming into the last part of the day. So let's go and listen to Come People of the Risen King, taking us up to 5.